Over the last few years, there has been one man in the UFC who has changed the viability, the overall appeal, and honestly even the markability of the entire sport. Conor McGregor. Now, McGregor's a polarizing figure. His attitude, his appearance, his origin story, his accomplishments, they all make him larger than life. And it's gotten to the point where it's impossible for anybody in the world of mixed martial arts to either ignore him or simply just write him off. Like all larger-than-life characters, McGregor is both loved and hated by millions. There are very few people who have a neutral opinion of this man. And while most of it is attributable to his record in the ring, his bravado, his quick wit, his willingness to trash talk, a lot of what makes McGregor so interesting is his aesthetic. So today I'm going to break down his appearance and talk about how he's curated it and why it's contributed to his overall success and his meteoric rise in the ranks. Having not come from money, in fact, the day before he won his first professional fight, he ended up collecting a welfare check. McGregor typifies the old school example of what's called new money, and he's never shied away from showing that off. Whether he's bragging about prize purses in the middle of the ring,
Dana, 60 G's, baby!
driving cars that cost twice as much as the average mortgage, spending time in homes that are large enough to house an entire army, or just wearing watches that are only available to the most exclusive of buyers, McGregor is always willing to show off his wealth. He knows he's earned it. He's never had it before, and he has no pretense about anything in this idea of inconspicuous consumption. The contrast between the fame and fortune he has now versus the hardships and struggle that he dealt with before lead to a very interesting and a pretty unique relationship with wealth. Had he amassed his fortune over a 10-year time period with wise investments and good business deals, he may have been more subtle about the way that he flaunts his wealth. But he understands that this is a great way for him to leverage himself even better against his opponents and in the minds of his fans. By consuming so much, what he's doing is signaling that he's on top of the world. And it's not just the fighting world, it's the entire world. McGregor now falls within the top 1% of 1% in the entire world. And he wants everybody to know it because there's something almost terrifying about going toe to toe with somebody who in all aspects of life can argue that he is the best. Of all the unique aspects of McGregor's aesthetic, his affinity for suits in a culture that despises suits is the most glaring and obvious. Most men his age would look for any opportunity they could to get out of a suit, whereas McGregor finds any excuse he can to actually put one on. It's a movement that's increasing amongst athletes across a whole lot of disciplines. They understand that you have to dress for success, and if you can look in a way that is indicative of success off the court or out of the ring, then it can lend itself to more success within each athlete's given sport. His suits are all custom made for him, and he never chooses something like a simple navy or a gray. The cloth, the customizations, even the cut, they're all designed to draw as much attention to him as they can. At the same time, his suiting is actually pretty decent. It's one thing for a man to embrace this idea of suiting being a ladder to success, but he avoids a lot of the really bad suiting mistakes that were made by NBA players in the 90s. He doesn't simply choose suiting just because it's different or attention-seeking or more garish. He actually has a moderately, if not even a little bit more so, elevated level of taste. Sure, he may have skinnier lapels, brighter colors, bolder linings than I or most of the other men in the sartorial world would sign off on for ourselves, but the difference between him and the majority of the world of menswear is a difference of degree, not of kind. And don't think it stops with the suits. He flaunts the couture brands who make his Cayman alligator loafers, his larger than dinner plate timepieces, and his in-your-face aviators. McGregor embraces every stereotype of opulence and wealth, of this idea of a refined man, and then he uses it as a really stark contrast to the Celtic berserker that is the archetype that he typifies when he's actually in the ring. By making himself three-dimensional, he makes himself that much more intimidating. Continuing along the same path of a willingness to buck the conventional aesthetic of the world of MMA, McGregor's casual style draws just as sharp of a contrast to the other fighters as what his formal wear does. His industry is one of physical, traditional masculinity, and it's one where the old world ideals, things that we now consider to be politically correct, even subversive or a little bit dangerous, those ideals still thrive in his world. And a major part of that culture is a rejection of any appearance that can be considered too flamboyant. The most common appearance-related insult coming from the average UFC fan is something along the lines of a skinny jean wearing little bitch, or something along those lines. So what does McGregor do? He embraces skinny jeans. But it's not just tight denim. He wears loud sneakers, skinny sweats, oversized tank tops, even those old school newsboy flat brim caps that are associated with his native Ireland. He combines the casual world with some streetwear culture and adds just a little bit of his own go-to-hell attitude to create an appearance in his casual wear that's just as formidable and attention-seeking as his formal clothing. In a world of XXL tap-out t-shirts and board shorts that hang 5 inches past the knees, basically in a world where a lot of these guys dress like they're boys, the best way to stand out is for McGregor to look like he just walked off the page of an Esquire style guide. And standing out is something that he is more than comfortable with. We live in a time of globalism, yet McGregor's kind of a nationalist. He's fiercely patriotic and proud of his country, and it's done in a way that I imagine it probably makes some of the political elite cringe. And what it's done is make him a national treasure amongst his countrymen. While many men, past and present, see jeans and a t-shirt as the uniform of success, basically because it means that they've done so well for themselves that they no longer need to dress up, McGregor understands that dressing well is a symbol of success. It requires more wealth, more time, and even more willingness to embrace social risk than the average man has. There is no subtlety to McGregor. His suits are more appropriate at a men's trade show in Florence than they are in a business boardroom, let alone a post-fight press conference. His body is covered in tattoos that by both their placement and their content would prevent him from ever being able to work a real job. And his choice in watches, shoes, cars, homes, they can all be summed up as bigger, brighter, and bolder. Even what he wears when he fights and he works out, which is to say as little as possible, provides a stark contrast to the majority of warrior culture. Historically, when you were going to battle, you would want to cover up as much of your body as you could, your vital organs, your limbs. It was a way to protect yourself. Not the case for McGregor. Honestly, the man would probably fight naked if they would allow him to, just because it's a psychological way to demonstrate dominance over the other fighters. It's a way for him to signal that he doesn't just accept, but he fully embraces the risks that are inherent with his chosen lifestyle. Conor McGregor has rejected the uniform of his tribe. He understands that dressing, acting, thinking, and performing like the rest of the world of MMA means that he's going to get the same results as the rest of the world of MMA. Rather than trying to blend in with the culture of MMA, McGregor constantly seeks to set himself apart. He's telling them, I'm not like you. I'm better than you. I wear better clothes, drive better cars, I live in better homes, and overall, I have a better life than you do. If I have all of that, then why in the world would you not believe that I'm a better fighter than you are too? Okay, so with the archetype breakdowns, I'm gonna put McGregor at 75% rakish, 13% refined, and 12% rugged. If you're interested in learning more about what those 3 archetypes are, rugged, refined, and rakish, I have a link down here for you below. It leads to a quiz. It's pretty quick, it's 7 questions, and based on the answer to those questions, it's gonna tell you which one of those 3 you fall in, what that actually means for you, and how to dress in a way that's consistent with what that archetype is. One of the best ways to get better at dressing well is to understand that your clothing tells a story, and then to know what that story is and know how to tell it in the way that you want it to. And the easiest way to do that is to start off by knowing what your archetype is.